Hi, and welcome back to Edinburgh Napier's Jazz Society's show, Do You Like Jazz? I'm Rachel, and I'm here with Sonny, Will, and for the first time, Louis. So today we're going to be listening to an album called Continuo by Avishai Cohen, and the first track is Nunu. Okay, so that was the first track called Nunu. So what do you guys have to say about that?
Such a cool song. To be honest, I think me and Will share the same opinion, but Nunu is my favourite song on this album.
Yeah, I mean, the first track I actually heard of this was later on in the album called Smash, and that was always like my favorite. And then I kind of heard this one a few times. I was like, yeah, it's a lot cooler. The bass player Avishai Cohen, he's really muscular in his playing. It's really like toneful, especially in the solo. Just like having that attitude with like referring back to the or the bass line in his case, but then like making it his own and then really developing the solo throughout his whole like little solo section. It's brilliant.
Very modern use of space.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. What's so cool about this album is we have Amos Hoffman on the oud, which makes it like such a cool combination of jazz and then like the Middle Eastern vibe, which I mean that song really sets the tone, I think, for the album.
Yeah, totally.
Because there's a lot of songs that come up which have kind of the same rhythmic feel as Nunu, and then they've also got the same Middle Eastern feel. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to listening to the rest of it. This was this Continuo, recorded in 2006, and what's the lineup, Will?
So the lineup is Avishai Cohen is your like the main guy, the bass player as well. You have Sam Barsh, who is the keys player. It's actually noted in the like official instrument listing. He's the keyboard, the pianist, and the hand clapper. Yeah.
I think all of them had hand clapping at the end of end of their instrumentation. Yeah.
Yes. Sam Barsh, Amos Hoffman, another Israeli fellow, the oud player and / guitarist. He's also got brilliant albums like Carvings, which I would also recommend you all listen to after this, and Marca Gianna, which is he's from America. He's just an American drummer. Played on Black Star as well, by David Bowie. So
all right, nice.
Yeah, they're definitely like creme de la creme in terms of lineup.
Yeah, but yeah, such a cool rhythmic song.
Is this whole album compositions?
So I believe that it's all original compositions, apart from Annie Mamin, which I think which has been composed by Julia Shlonsky, and that's a cover of a poem, a Hebrew poem, which is pretty cool. But yeah, apart from that, I think they're all originals.
Yeah, it's a very Avishai Cohen sound. If you listen to his other works, it's kind of like, yeah, that's definitely Avishai for sure.
I mean, I love a good bass player composer.
Yeah, true.
They always kind of provide an interesting angle to composition. You have Charles Mingus, Jacob Pastorius, his predecessors, and then Michael Leake from Snarky Puppy.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Interesting you say Pastorius, because Avishai Cohen was introduced to Pastorius by his music teacher and took a lot of influence from him, which is pretty cool. But the reason we have Louis here today is because Louis is a bass player, so we can get some insight into thoughts on the bass playing in this.
Okay,
cool.
I didn't know that's why I was here.
I know, and hopefully just from here on out.
Yeah. But Rachel, what did you think of this song?
I really liked this. When it started, I was like, I don't know if this album is gonna be as good as the last two. It completely had like a different vibe from the last two that we were listening to. I think the last two were so, in my opinion, I guess more so like obviously jazz. I don't know if that makes any sense, but this one I thought is like
ahead.
Yeah, like I think it was like, oh, this
industry.
is stereotypical sounding jazz. Even the one last time, I was like, yeah, this is jazz. This obviously like took a bit of time to get into it, and I thought the drums were so good. They like the use of rims, but they were really busy, but they weren't overpowering. No, I really liked this. The vibe at the end was completely different than what I imagined at the start. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Should we go on to the?
Let's move on. So
next track?
the next one, track 2, it's called Ellie.
Yeah.
It's called Ellie. Okay, so that was track 2. Ellie, what do you guys have to say?
Super cool. Yeah, that's kind of a lot more chill than the first track. I mean, what struck me was the kind of European jazz influence to that tune. So it reminded me, especially Sam Barsh on the piano, it reminded me a lot of Esbjorn Svensson and his trio, who they're from Sweden. Yeah, they're from Sweden. And then also another trio called Arne Torvik Trio. I believe Arne Torvik is the pianist in that trio, but also reminded me of that. So both like European jazz musicians, but it's definitely got that style.
Yeah, kind of rooted in classical music, and we were saying at the start of this, it was like quite a classical kind of sound almost, and quite a classical ensemble, but definitely taking like inspiration from that, and like definitely hear even just like your kind of basics of like Jan Garbarek. I was kind of listening to it, I was like, this could be an Officium track with a bit more, if it had a bit more like weird sounding percussion. I reckon that would fit quite well, actually.
Yeah, it's that kind of traditional or kind of folk and mixed with classical sound that that kind of came from Scandinavia.
Yeah. The bass player as well. I was like reminded. I did my my jazz essay on Eberhard Weber, who is another jazz bass player from Europe. This was just at the very start of European jazz, and I could definitely hear a lot of influences from Weber. Kind of just like really weird kind of sounds, just like not in this one particularly, not like completely like shredding up and down your frets, but kind of just like really holding that like really high tones at some point. Just
a lot of vibrato.
Yeah, a lot of vibrato, and just making it sound like kind of interesting, like so you're not, keeping attention to detail.
I mean, Avishai's note choice in that one, I found really beautiful.
Yeah, the whole like, I think the tune as well, just like listening to the actual melody was just very pretty, and it also went into its own darker places at the start and the end actually as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Avishai Cohen kind of got a hand up from Chick Corea, because he was part of Chick Corea's trio, Chick Corea's new trio, which is pretty cool. So he started playing piano at 9, and then switched to the bass at 14, and then so he was born in Israel, so he lived there, then I think moved to Missouri and moved back to Israel, and then he eventually moved to New York, and he was busking and working in construction, as you do, and then that's when he became part of Chick Corea's new trio, and then also was a co-founder of the ensemble Origin, which is another one of Chick Corea's ensembles, and he was kind of playing with him for 6 years, and I think that's what gave him kind of the leg up in performance kind of thing, and that's where he like honed a lot of his compositional and performance skills, which, I mean, this is one of his slightly later albums, and you can just hear the like composition mastery.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's composition mastery is that's a good term for Avishai. I think he's definitely one of my most favorite albums, and I think that's, it's not about the individual player, I suppose. It's like they all get to have their own bit. They even have a track, I think it's the next one, called One for Mark. But they all have their own little bit, but they're all working together to really create like this kind of, they're not like pushing someone up a bit like in Sarah.
No one's overindulging.
Yeah, in Sarah Vaughan's one,
it's about the composition.
Yeah, because in Sarah Vaughan's album, like Live at Mr. Kelly's, it was kind of Sarah Vaughan and the bands behind her kind of thing, and that was normal at that time, especially during like, especially the rise of the 50s. Like you have your Frank Sinatra as well, kind of just like, he's the main man. There's like a massive like wall of instruments behind him, but Frank Sinatra's the main character. But with this one, I feel like they're all fairly on even footing.
Yeah, definitely. Rachel, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, they all definitely get like a little time to shine, and it's not always as well like You Go Then You Go. It's like very interwoven between each other. Yeah, I like this one. It was more chill than the first one, but I thought it was pretty, like you said.
It
had the brushes in it, So, little jazz staple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I like this one.
Nice.
Yeah. Are we move on to the next one?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, Will told us the title earlier.
Spoiled
Little
it.
spoiler alert, but this is track 3. It's one for Mark. Okay, so that was track 3, one for Mark. What do you guys think?
Try counting the time signature on that one.
I know we were trying like for a solid, I don't know, 2 minutes and just did not work.
That's why it's called
One for Mark. Yeah. The one Mark's the drummer, so it makes sense why it was like quite complicated. I think I got 13/8 in that middle section, but obviously it changes throughout, so there's no chance in me
definitely.
actually I don't know, but
It's got a similar kind of feeling to Nunu. I think there are several songs on this which do kind of revert back to that kind of rhythmic, slightly like prog feel.
damn, now you say that, I don't like that, but yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean,
dropping a prog jazz.
Yeah, I mean, just transfer the instrumentation and it's math rock. But no,
Maybe.
Not sure how I feel about that.
I don't like that one.
well, but it's still jazz and it's still super cool.
No shade to math rock.
Yeah. But yeah, so the first couple albums Avishai Cohen released was on Chick Corea's label, which was Stretch/Concord Records, and then he made his own record called record label called Razdaz Records, and he did that because this is a quote from him: "I'm always packed with ideas. I decided to start my own label because I'm involved in so many projects." So he's obviously he was involved in a lot of different things, and so starting his own label just kind of made sense for him.
Oh, is he like the owner / in-house bass player then in that case?
I think that's probably the case, yeah.
Oh, right. Fair enough.
But yeah, so he released quite a few records with them, and then, on his own record label, and then also recorded an album at the Blue Note in New York City, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, super cool song. Really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, the drummer, Mark, he's brilliant. He's really tested on this one. I'm sure our in-house drummer would tell you that as well, but all the time signature changes, that sounds a little bit nightmarish.
It does. So I was trying to count alongside it. I actually looked up. I don't know how much I trust this. It says it's in 4/4 and 103 BPM.
No.
So that's a lie.
No.
Because there's just no way. Yeah, that one was cool though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's so Mark, actually, this is interesting. So he also made his own record label as well. So he's founder of Beat Music Productions, which is based in America.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. But yeah, he's done lots of stuff. He's composer, drummer, producer. He's kind of an all-in-one
Jack of all trades
kind of thing. But drums is his passion, quite clearly on this one.
Yeah, definitely. Thoughts, Louis?
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. Very, very lyrical, kind of bass solo, which isn't easy to do on an upright. And the accuracy. You gotta really appreciate it.
Have you played much upright before?
In high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a bit.
Yeah. We've got it fixed now, don't we? Or it's getting fixed.
Yeah, we've got an upright bass in the music department, which we've kind of forced the music technician to fix. So looking forward to hearing some of that from Louis.
Yeah, there's that little middle bit that used the had stops using the blues scale.
Oh right, I didn't. Oh yeah. Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It reminded me of Haitian Flight Song.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Charlie Mingus.
I'll need to give that a listen.
If you can
I don't know.
think of the start of that.
I wouldn't be. I'd have to give that another listen. But yeah, okay, yeah, I know what you mean though. That's good.
Yeah, Rachel.
Okay, track 4, Annie Mammon. Okay, that was Annie Mammon. So, Sonny, what do you have to say?
I think that was really cool. It's definitely a lot more chill than the other ones. As I said earlier, this is a cover of a poem by Russian-born Hebrew poet called Shol Chernychovsky. Bit butchering that surname, but yeah. So this, like, the song was composed by someone called Julia Shlonsky, and yeah, it's a cover of a poem, and the poem is about the Jewish principles of faith, which I think is quite a cool concept to have a song based on, and I kind of like, I enjoy Avishai Cohen's kind of like cultural nods and kind of claims to identity. I think that's really cool within the album, like hearing different.
Yeah, it's probably something that he's definitely struggled with, moving back and forth to America and whatnot. It's like, it's nice to see that he has that strong Israeli culture identity. You know, this whole like album is, you know, this is Israeli jazz.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, not all his music is like that.
Yeah, not all his music's like that, but this album
This
in
one's
particular,
definitely indulging that concept.
yeah,
Which is a cool thing.
throughout it. I think that's why my favorite's actually New, just because I think it explains it the best.
Yeah,
in a
no,
way.
I would agree.
This one, I was kind of trying to listen out if, like, because I knew it was a poem. I was trying to listen out, is it like rhythmically following the poem in any sort of way? And to my kind of knowledge, it wasn't really rhythmically following the words, but more the piano. Sam Barsh was trying to tell the story in what this poem was, because I'm pretty sure it's quite a short poem.
Mm-hmm.
It was a poem that was set to music, I'm guessing.
No,
So it had a melody.
No,
no,
I
the
think
poem,
it's just
It's just an interpretation
yeah,
of the poem.
I think so.
Okay, well that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, like harmonically, melodically, that one I thought was probably the prettiest so far.
Yeah, I definitely think it had its really nice kind of moments within the song, which, I don't know, makes me want to read the poem and see what that's like.
It's quite interesting. A lot of the tracks actually are quite like, they feel like full of despair and everything. If you told me this was like of a love-struck like woman, like lost his husband at war or something similar along those lines, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But it's actually quite like, you know, it's got its connections with like Hebrew like and tales, and just it's like really knowledgeable.
Yeah, no, definitely, I'd agree with that. It's funny because a couple of weeks ago, I put this album on and I had a listen, and I looked up, you know, some album reviews, and I found one, and it was quite bad, and I sent it to Will. So what did you think about that?
This guy, what's his name again?
Paul
Olsen. You suck. Yeah, this is a review in 2016. It's basically, it goes on to at the start basically to tell me like, oh, look how good this album, like look how good the musicians are. The playing is like perfect, and then it goes on to say that it's a bit lifeless, and just like especially like the Sam Barsh stuff, he was saying it's like ploddy piano and stuff. I was like, how is that ploddy?
Yeah, it was such a bad review, and just, I mean, in the comment section, it was just saying that
Carl _D, worst review I've ever read. Well done, Paul Olsen. You really outdid yourself here.
Yeah, like just kind of looked bad on the person reviewing the album. Like, I don't understand how you could interpret it as being ploddy or.
I think he might have listened to the first 2 tracks and then decided.
Or listened to
"That's good enough."
snippets and then just been like, nah, I'm not listening to the rest.
I mean, I kind of thought the opposite. This album feels very alive and very physical.
Yeah, well, that's because he even says that at the start of it. He says that, you know, it was about Avishai's playing, that it's like, you know, muscular and singing at tone, rich melody lines. I'm like, well, then why can't you give it a bad review? It works beautifully as an album. It's like, you know, it's pretty well received as I know it.
Mm.
But I don't know.
Maybe he just wasn't specific enough as to what he was trying to say. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, great thoughts, guys. Next is track 5 called Samuel. Okay, that was track 5. Samuel, Will, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, no, that was really cool. We were like thinking about it, just thinking back to Ellie and how that sounded. This kind of sounded like Ellie's darker older brother, and interestingly enough, one of the only ones which have another name on as well, actually. But it sounded really cool, really dark. You were saying, Louis, that it sounded a bit rocky at times, rocky but jazz. But I didn't quite catch what you meant by that. But
well, you had the kind of ostinato descending bass line in that one.
yeah, that's okay.
which-
Yeah, that's true.
That's where I was hearing rock.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah,
But the harmony in the solos felt more sort of jazzy than some of the other tracks.
yeah, definitely. I think some of the definitely at the start as well. Sam Barsh, just like some of the notes, the note choice, I was like, whoa, that's that's a bit like jarring, a bit scary, but like bringing it back in, just like keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, he really shone through there. And I mean, like, assuming Samuel is after Sam Barsh, the pianist, the name of the song, like, he really does take it and plays around, and it's just super cool. The stuff he's playing. Another, like, very much European influenced one, I'd say. And yeah, just great.
Yeah, having those repetitive ostinatos definitely. Yeah, it's definitely European jazz. Maybe from again, all that comes to mind at the moment is Jan Garbarek. I'd probably have better comparisons afterwards, but yeah. Yeah. Should we move on then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next track is track 6 called Emotional Storm. Okay, that was track 6, Emotional Storm. Louis, I'll start with you. What do you have to say about that one?
That one was a little bit different, very different feel. A lot of drag, you were saying, Sonny.
Yeah, I mean, later on in the song, there was one bit where it was just like completely dragging, and I think that was like, there was also some rhythmic displacement, which was quite nice, and I think that it dragged for a little bit and then just came right back in, which was really nice.
That was long, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was 7.5 minutes.
Is that
Yeah.
the longest track?
Longest
on the
track
album?
in this one, I think. Yeah. But yeah, I was comparing it to the last week's Ryu Fukui, his early summer. That's his 10-minute piece.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming if Mark had a 2-minute drum solo in this one, it would be roughly about the same time as well.
Oh yeah.
But the different sections you could really notice, and like how it was more of like it told a tale, basically going through like really draggy bits and then speeding right up again.
Almost like a storm.
Oh,
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, just reminded that one was called Emotional Storm. If you forgot after those 7 minutes. But yeah, that's something that, like, I mean, in my own compositions, I feel like I always have I have bitty bits, like it's different things which don't really line up, and then it is linking them together, which is the hard part, and that, like, the way that was linked together was really nice and went kind of quite naturally.
Yeah. See, I'm boring. I just keep to the same
Yeah.
same stuff. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, mental drumming. What did you think,
Yeah,
Rachel?
that was pretty crazy. I thought it was pretty slay. I almost, as soon as the thing ended, said slay, but I remembered I had to say what song it was.
Yeah.
No, that was really cool. It was very busy. It was very draggy, and then it was like everything was changing, chopping about. Not literally chops, but like
Yeah.
chopping and changing. I don't know. That one was pretty mental. It wasn't like any of the other ones we've listened to yet on this track. I don't think. It was
Yeah.
very different.
I don't know what I've done or what I was doing, because I have a little bit of notes here, and I've written on this one, it's a nice in-between song, and it's like, this is its own song. I think I'd maybe skipped to halfway through and listened to a bit and gone, but no, this is very much its own song and very cool.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, one that I'll go back and listen to again. I've because I listen to the songs without looking at Spotify tracks, I just listen to the full thing.
Yeah.
I get lost in sometimes where a song starts and a song ends.
Mm-hmm.
That happened a lot with the Sarah Vaughan as well, because that's like, because it's a live album, it just goes right the way through, and I was like, I just didn't know a single song name. But
Yeah, I mean, especially with this kind of album where there's a lot of different time signatures, there's a lot of different feels in individual songs, there's a lot of different sections, so that it kind of can be played back to back, and maybe it was played back to back.
I'm assuming so. Yeah, I mean, there's like so many time signature changes. You'd be forgiven if you thought this was like 20 shorter songs than however many like longer songs we have. But it's definitely quite the listen to if you do it like solidly without taking breaks, just one way through. Me and Louis did that once actually, walking back at some silly o'clock in the night, just with the Marshall speaker in tow, just listen to the full album. It's quite nice
Yeah,
actually.
that was all a blur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have listened to the album before, a while ago, and there are a few key tracks that I've heard quite a lot.
Yeah.
But it's nice to sit down and kind of really think about it.
Yeah, think about it in the critically sense, but also like thinking about like this kind of more general knowledge stuff as well, just like where Avishai was at this point, whereas Sam Barsh was at this point. You know, Sam Barsh, this was kind of his first major, band really. Like before this, he wasn't doing much else, and then he had his own separate, like trio, which he had afterwards, and then after then he became like a pop musician really.
Yeah.
He wrote songs like that TikTok song "I'm the Man" by Aloe Black or something like that. He wrote that. It's a bit weird. He's also done like songs with Kendrick as well. Just brilliant musicians.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so after every storm there is
I was
a
about
calm.
to say
Yeah.
the next
I
track
thought that was
is called
before the storm.
Calm.
That's
True.
after the storm.
Yeah, after
No,
the
there's
storm.
the calm before the storm.
Well,
It's both.
maybe the calm comes before and after, but in this, the calm comes after. Let's listen to calm. Okay, that was calm. What do you guys have to say?
Very calm. But yeah, no, definitely interesting. I was like speaking to Louis about it and thinking like, oh, it's actually quite, straight, like pretty straight. It's just like a 4/4. And as soon as I said that though, it changed to like a waltz or like a 6/8 thing. I was like, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah, it's quite catchy.
Yeah.
I thought it was also kind of, it is calm, but it's slightly edgy as well. It's got its like kind of edgier moments, especially when it does change time signature.
Yeah, I mean
It was dark.
Yeah,
It
this
had a
whole
darkness.
album's pretty dark. Despite like the bright like sand dunes of the album cover, it's like the whole thing is like, it's, if you remember the start of the album, it starts with a big old pedal and like a guitar as well, or the oud rather, just like playing some dark melodies on it.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, Will, was I have written down here the producer, who's Ray Jefford, and And I wanted to ask, not that you know who he is, but what you think of the production of the album.
Production. I was actually wondering like what Theo's actually looking at now in terms of like the wave file, because the last one, the Ryo Fukui one, it was limited. Someone had limited it. And it was just like brick wall limited and super loud. And like I looked at the wave file, I was like, oh my god, they've killed like half of the the dynamics in, which obviously wasn't recorded like that. Someone had done that like more recently.
I never picked up on that.
Huh?
I never picked up on that.
Yeah, no,
That's
I think
interesting.
it's the one on YouTube, not the one on Spotify. I
Okay.
don't know, but anyway, in terms of like the production on this one, it's like super crisp, and it's quite obviously post 2000 because it's
Mhm.
like you wouldn't get this kind of crisp and clarity in any other like jazz album
Yeah.
before that. They've pulled no punches in terms of production. It sounds brilliant. I would say maybe Sam Barsh could come down a couple. He's a little bit loud and in the front, maybe. I don't know, at times.
Maybe
but
that's purposeful, though.
yeah, that's true, and it quite easily could be.
It sort of feels like everything is at the front to me.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. Maybe not the drums actually. The drums definitely with the brushes sometimes sit quite far back.
One thing
Yeah.
I do really like about this is that you were saying they're all kind of at the front, but I think there is something in that. Like, I think that they're in traditional kind of jazz, it's very much, as we were saying with the Sarah Vaughan album and like Oscar Peterson as well, you have your front man and you have like your backing, but this is very much like they're all kind of sharing the melody and they're all kind of interpreting it in their own way, but together, if that makes sense. And I think that's a really nice thing about this. And definitely in the last song there's some really nice sections with Avishai and Amos Hoffman on the oud, and they're playing very much together, and that's really nice as well.
Yeah, I think maybe Paul Olsen mistook that as them fighting for space, because that's one of his quotes there.
Oh yeah.
They're saying they're fighting for like their own little space. I'm like, no, they're just at the right volume.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant to ask. What do the composition credits look like? Is it all?
It's all
Avishai?
them. It's pretty much all Avishai. It's actually, I'm pretty sure the credits are.
Yeah, it's all Avishai apart from the cover of a poem.
I'd have to. I don't know how to do it on Spotify. It's all they've.
I mean,
changed it
they're all their names are listed on Spotify.
Yeah, so all the compositions are written and arranged by Avishai Cohen, but I think that song, Annie Mamin, I think that is a cover, which has been composed by Julia Schlonsky.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
I was talking about like
the actual Spotify
the
credits.
the bandmates.
Yeah, so all like the whole time the bandmates are all accredited for. Like it's not very pretty to look at on Spotify, but it's always Avishai Cohen, Sam Barshmark, and then Amos rather, when he's like in the songs, because he's not in every single one. But
Yeah. What did you think, Rachel?
Yeah, that one was much slower. Just every single track on this album has had like a completely different feel. It's not been like, not saying that like he doesn't have a kind of sound that you could pick out. Oh, this is Avishai, but it's definitely like different. I'm wondering if like he experimented with it and he was like, you know what, I just like all of these. It's like every song as well has its own like multiple feelings in the one song, but.
yeah, definitely. I think the fact that he kept with such a tight instrumentation roster as well. You know, there's in a total there's your piano, there's your, I think they have a keyboard at one point. There's an electric bass and an acoustic bass, your drums, and then the oud, and that's it. So it's 5-6 instruments at most. So that's not a lot to work with. Like, we may think of like, you know, bands of like 4 instruments and stuff, but they have like added synths, added layers. They have lots of different added things. This is very raw. This is very in your face. This, you know, it doesn't hide what it's trying to be. You know, we play these instruments. Here's us playing them.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
to make that kind of decision, Avishai must have gone, right, okay, what can I do to make this interesting and not feel the same song every time? And I think he's done a pretty excellent job.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we'll have a look at the next one. Next one is Arava. Okay, nice ending. Okay, that was Arava. So who wants to go first?
Surprisingly, this one and some of the earlier songs actually reminded me of Alan Benzi's tunes. Alan Benzi's my piano teacher.
Shout out Alan Benzi.
Yeah. I mean he's got some good albums. And yeah, some of this reminds me a little bit of his melodies, which is interesting. Yeah.
Tell you what, actually, I was thinking the melodies. I was like humming it to myself. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. That sounds quite like Scottish traditional, actually. Interestingly enough, but I think like because trad music all over Europe it's very similar actually, which is that's a discussion for another day. But I think because it's all quite similar, I think that's why I'm just getting confused. Really, with like Israeli traditional music and Scottish traditional. So
yeah, there's maybe some overlap in things
I'm hearing a lot of classical harmony
okay.
in this album. Definitely in that song, and what was it called? Annie, what was it?
Annie Mammon.
Annie Mammon, yeah, that one as well.
Yeah, definitely taking a lot of inspiration from different places to make this like one album sound the way that it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we can move on.
Move on, yeah.
Yeah. Next track is called Smash. Okay, that was Smash. So I think we'll go straight to you, Louis, about the bass.
Yeah. Well, this is the first track I heard from the album. It's probably my favorite. Not necessarily saying it's the best, but it's definitely my favorite. Yeah, really cool bass line. You know, and when the band comes in with those hits, it's really, really powerful, really fun. You know, and when that bass line drops in isolation again, you know it's about to get funky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where the oud solo is coming on that like droning note.
Yeah.
You said he starts a lot of his solos like that.
Oh yeah, Moose Hoffman. He starts all of his solos basically dun 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 dun. Like this is my solo. Everyone leave kind of thing. But I think in this case it fits quite well with the song. And you know, this is my first song as well that I heard of this album, and it kind of brings me back memories of last year.
You put this on every day.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But yeah, brilliant bass line, and nice to hear the electric bass as well.
Yeah, he brings that in for solo. Really nice.
Quite
really nice
fantastic
work.
solo.
I mean,
Some
yeah,
of those chops are fast.
yeah. I mean, incredible runs. Yeah, and the harmonics he throws in there, really nice.
I mean, just that finishing note on that tune was really nice as well. Kind of vibrato-y vibe on that, which is cool.
Yeah.
Just a really bouncy and like fun song.
Yeah. I mean, if you played it like with different instrumentation, it would probably be quite a rocky song, because at the start they're like basically arpeggiating power chords, you know, what you would play in a rock band normally, but it'd make it, because of the timing signature, because of the syncopation, it makes it sound really funky, really groovy.
Yeah, there's obviously definitely a kind of rock influence, and I mean, being kind of newer musicians, I mean, this is the first album we've done a review on where the main writer's not dead. So Avishai Cohen's still alive, and so it means that they will very much have been influenced by the kind of like 70s rock and later
of course stuff. Like there's no telling of where my own influences even come when I'm composing, because I just don't know. Like it's impossible to really like track down your like resources like that,
especially when you're listening to really cool stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, well, that bass line, it definitely shows the kind of damage you can do just with like roots and fifths.
Yeah, for sure.
And octaves. Yeah,
Definitely.
So true.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the last track, which is the name of the whole album. So this is Continuo.
did not notice the cackle at the end when I've listened to that before.
Yeah, I know. I've just realised that's the hand clapping as well, which Sam Barsh and the rest of them are so rightfully credited for.
Yeah, and it's something it does really it does really slip into the background, and you can't really differentiate it between some sort of percussion instrument and clapping, which is pretty cool.
It was a little pitch bend with the tuning peg.
Mm.
That always gets in that one.
Yeah, definitely. I really like that track. I haven't listened to that one in ages. I kind of stop at Smash afterwards because every time I play it at my house, my girlfriend gets annoyed that Smash is on again, so I have to just turn it off. So never get to listen to the end one, but yeah, that sounded really cool.
Yeah, pulls out his electric bass.
Yeah. The chords sounded great. Sounded like tonally sounded a lot like Wooten.
All right.
I think. Yeah, I really like that. I've not actually heard that one. I don't think, or not in a long time.
Well, I mean, it
was probably the most different of the whole album.
Yeah, it was. It kind of, you could kind of subject it into two different tracks. The start just with Avishai and Amos Hoffman, and then kind of the band comes in with like a completely different track.
Yeah.
It sounds quite Jewish actually. I bet they had fun with that
I was gonna say this one sounds more like where you said that he's Israeli, so I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But this one just like all of them have like the kind of two songs in one type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this one was very different. Like at the end of that didn't really feel like jazz. That just
It's a little bit klezmer. Is that what it's called?
Klezmer? Is that the
like Jewish folk?
I wouldn't know. But, well, that's research for next week.
I
I think.
I know that. Well, Wolf Records dropped a full-length live klezmer album.
Oh yes, they
sure.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
Wolfpack.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
which we'll surely review at some point as well.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Apologies if it's not called klezmer and something else.
Oh well.
That's
Yeah.
poor research.
We won't cancel you. Don't worry.
Yeah. One thing I really like about at the start when it's just Avishai and Amos, is when like bass, whether it be electric or acoustic, when it goes really up high, it has the same sort of qualities as an oud, I think. So
yeah, it
matches really well.
Yeah, it's only the
There's a middle ground.
the only difference is you can't really hear the plucking, obviously, because it's played with a pick on the oud. So that's the only real difference, is like that kind of plucking sound. And when the oud comes in, it matches it so well. It's a micro polyphony, as it would be, because it's like slight variations in their playing, but they're basically playing the same line.
Yeah, well, it's two different instruments that sort of functionally serve a very different purpose, but they're kind of meeting in the middle,
In the midway point.
which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a fine finisher for this fantastic album.
Definitely is a fantastic album. One I will continue to listen to.
Nice.
One of the ones where I feel like you'll get something new every time.
That's very cool. I mean, yeah, I think I've gotten quite a few new things just listening to this again, and I've I must have listened to this album like at least 20 times. It was my top 5 and Spotify Wrapped 21, I think.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, definitely over listened to this a little bit, but
Is this a big album?
no, not really. Like the most plays like it's got is Smash with 1.8. I mean, Spotify plays don't mean much really.
No,
That's
not
true.
at all.
Well,
Especially not in this
not in jazz.
kind of
Yeah,
area.
I don't think it's massive though, because the only reviews that, like, if you try and search for reviews as well, it's kind of just like that Powell guy or whatever his name was, and I think that's all I could really find about it.
It's definitely the very quick reference to his Middle Eastern influence.
Yeah.
It'll just be like, yeah, he's kind of got Middle Eastern, European influences, and this is the album that shows kind of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's still, Avishai is still like a player of like, and well noted in the jazz community. I mean, even Alan Bowie, the radio guy, he's even he hasn't spoken to him personally, but he's met him before.
Yeah, and interviewed Chick Corea, which is amazing.
Yeah, I know.
So we're going to have to get him on this radio show at some point and ask him a few questions about that. So yeah, we'll set that up.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So thanks for listening to Do You Like Jazz? And we'll be back next week. We hope you like Continuo.